Assalamu alaikum.
Because I'm going to discuss a few realities. And what I want us to do is question these realities and using functional basic reasoning, ask the question, what best explains these realities? God or naturalism? Or atheism, if you like. Now, the first reality that I want to touch upon and address is our universe. And the reality that our universe is rational. It's intelligible. It's governed by distinctive laws, the laws of logic, the laws of physics, and is mathematically coherent. This is a fact which atheists and theist scientists alike would not refute. They would not deny. Because the reality is, to do science, another thing science requires, or scientists requires, is that when they make discoveries, they have to be things they can understand. Otherwise, you don't have science. So science is also pegged on the notion that the universe is rational, it's ordered. There's uniformity in nature. Science requires this notion. And even the great scientists or minds of the past, such as Einstein, he said, what is inconceivable about the universe is that it is at all conceivable. Now, he was one of the greatest minds in science. He looked into nature. When he looked into reality, he understood this. He saw that reality is entrenched with reason. It's entrenched with reason. You can't separate the two. And this was something that really interested him. Throughout his writings, we see him referring to the rationality present in the universe. And it's because the reality is, if we claim or try to maintain naturalism, which is the idea that everything is the result of blind, physical, non-rational processes, if you go down, reduce down to the foundations, everything is the result of blind, random, non-rational, physical processes, gases, molecules bumping into each other, however you want to term it. This is the reality according to naturalism. Now, Einstein, I'm sure, understood this, that if you claim such a thing, then having rationality in our universe doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. Something doesn't add up. We have the likes of more recent scientists, physicists, eminent physicists such as Paul Davies. In the Templeton Address, he also alluded to this. And he said, and he referred to it as the burning question. He asked the question, he said, where do we get the laws of physics from? Where do we get the laws of physics from? And he followed this up by asking another profound question. He said, how do we have laws which somehow direct these mindless random gases to life, to intelligence, to consciousness? And I want to emphasize this point. I really want you to understand this point. How can random, blind, non-rational processes, really think about this, basic reasoning, random, blind, random, unconscious processes, they don't have a mind, they're dead processes, just physical, just molecules colliding into each other. How can these result into rationality? How can this result into life? How does it result into consciousness? When we employ basic reasoning, we know something doesn't add up. That's not an inference at all. Naturalism is not an explanation. If anything, it's counter-discourse. It doesn't make sense. In the best basic way I can say this or state this is, how do you get rationality from non-rationality? How do you get order from random, blind processes? That's the equivalent of saying something coming from nothing, or something can come from nothing. It's impossible, it's ridiculous. And this is what certain individuals want us to believe. Hocus pocus, literally magic. It's magic. Take consciousness, for example. Now, this state we have as human beings, our awareness, this third person subjective experience that we have, right? This awareness, for example, right now as you're listening to me, you are experiencing listening to me. It makes you feel in a particular way, right? Now, what scientists can do is they can hook you up to a monitor and they could correlate the changes in brain function and brain activity as you're listening to me and I say certain things, and they can tell you, oh look, there's these particular changes in this part of the brain and so on. But what they can't do is they cannot quantify that third person subjective experience that you're feeling listening to me, or I'm feeling listening to you. This is something immaterial. It cannot be quantified by science or empiricism. How do you explain this? Or naturalism? How do you get something immaterial stemming from something material? Again, it's the equivalent of saying something arising from nothing. It's ridiculous. Because if all you have is matter in the beginning, and what's going to happen is over time, simple forms of matter are going to arrange into more complex forms of matter. And that's all that's going to happen over time. You're not going to get immaterial realities coming into existence from the material. It doesn't happen, it doesn't work, it doesn't make sense. And this is the nature of our universe. And these are important, fundamental questions we need to ask. Where do these realities stem from? Naturalism doesn't provide an answer. Naturalism doesn't account for a rationally intelligible universe. And you know what? The mystery gets slightly deeper. Because not only is the universe rational, but we're rational beings. We have the ability to understand the universe. How amazing is that? It's almost like a lock and a key. The lock being the universe in all of its glory and majesty, and the key being the human mind, which has the capacity of higher level thought. And it has the ability to unlock some of the secrets of the universe. It's almost like we've been placed here to discover. And what I'm going to show you, inshallah, very shortly, is that from the Islamic perspective, we can draw a beautiful inference to these realities. But before I do that, I just want to quote another eminent physicist, mathematician, John D. Barrow. He alluded to the rationality of human beings, and he stated, natural selection requires no understanding of quarks and black holes for survival and multiplication. No understanding. Survival isn't concerned with understanding the universe or doing mathematics. Animals survive. Cockroaches survive. I mean, if any of you have had an infestation of cockroaches, you know how well they survive and how rapidly they multiply. They put us to shame. But when was the last time you saw a group of cockroaches sitting over coffee discussing quantum mechanics? It doesn't happen. So survivability and discovery are two distinct things. They're not linked. Again, naturalism plus evolution and natural selection do not explain our rational faculties, our higher level thought. But from the Islamic perspective, we have a beautiful inference. An amazing inference, because in the Quran, as mentioned before, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God, seldom does He try to prove His existence. Seldom does He do that, because Allah is a self-evident truth. He's necessary. Instead, what God does is He takes us from His existence to His worship. He takes us from His existence to His worship. And one of the strategies that God employs is He tells us to look into His creation. He tells us to look into the physical reality. Because when we do this, we will see His majesty, we would see His creative power, and being rational beings that He's made us, we will then realize how great He is and how insignificant we are. We would naturally submit to Him in worship. For example, God says in the 3rd chapter of the Quran, verse 190, "Indeed, verily in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the alternation of the night and day, in it are signs for those of understanding." Signs for those of understanding. God further says in the Quran, "We will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves, until it becomes clear, manifest to them, that it is the truth," referring to the Quran. God is telling us to observe the physical reality, and this is exactly what we see when we look into reality. We see order, we see the signs, we see the laws, distinctive laws that are present. We see mathematics, we see geometry, we see all of these amazing things. And we have the rational faculties to do this.